Hello, I am roaringbug, and welcome to my Sims 4 speed build. Today I am making a beautiful Blue Queen Anne Victorian house. This house is completely base game, so if you like it, you can get it off the gallery at roaringbug, and you can reach me at my various social media platforms in the description below. And if you like my video, please like, subscribe, or leave me a comment. And without further ado, I will begin talking about what I am building. So this house, as I said, is completely base game. And I feel like the drawback of this house is that it has a lot of pillars. So I'm not just a builder, I also play The Sims. And I started out as a player. And I don't like pillars because when you play with half cutaway walls, they do not disappear. And I used oodles of pillars on this build because I wanted this house to look like the picture and I wanted it to make it really beautiful. So right now what you're seeing what I'm doing with that tower is I'm doing a key command. I think I'm doing Control C or Shift C. I forgot which one of the two. And what it does is it gives you more options to manipulate the roof. And it gives you like extra manipulation to make curves and stuff with the roof pieces. And I'm kind of working my way from the front to the back. Just adding more pieces to the roof in the build because the most important part of building is just making the basic shape of the house. I like Victorian houses because they're not straightforward. There's a lot of bells and whistles that make a Victorian beautiful, and I like the challenge. And right now what you're seeing is I'm putting a lot of these platform pieces. I ended up not needing them because I didn't put any fancy trims or anything on the build because the picture, I don't think it had any, or I don't know, I just didn't add any of them. But if I wanted to, I could just put a trim on the entire house. And it just gives you more options for trims. And I thought this house looked really cool because it had this extra like tower thing on the porch, which you don't normally see on a house. And you know, since I'm just using base game, there's some finagling to be had when you're basically making something with like one arm tied behind your back, trying to make a build with just base game because you're just restricted with items. And I was trying to make this house look as beautiful as I could with the pack restriction, but at the same time I made it with the pack restrictions because I wanted this house to be accessible to anyone who plays The Sims. Also, I like the challenge because, you know, a simple house is just a rectangle or a square. And, you know, this has, you know, towers and half gables and, you know, it's got all the pizzazz. So I like it because it's just really interesting to look at. You know, it looks expensive. And in real life it's probably a very expensive home, but I thought, you know, it's vicarious living in The Sims. You know, they can have all the things. So, you know, that's why I like making them, because they look really pretty. And speaking of which, I saw a video a while back ago about the mental psychology of beautiful homes. So an example was that it was a story about a town or someplace in Europe, and they recently experienced a war, and they had a lot of buildings that needed to be rebuilt, and their local politician decided to make houses that were like old school pretty, like old world beautiful houses, because there was a lot of like modern houses there that were like cheap for cheap housing, but he wanted to beautify his like town area, whatever it was, and he just wanted his area to be beautiful. And I think the thinking behind it was probably tourism, because I think it really attracted tourism as well. But it's not just for tourism though, it also made people just happier, because people want to live in beautiful places. And I think it makes sense that you would want to live someplace that looks nice, because it makes you feel good if you live in an area that looks like a nice place. If you live in a place that looks, run down and dumpy, you're gonna feel run down and dumpy. But if it's, developed and it looks like it's well cared for, it says a lot about how people act and how they feel when their surroundings, their surroundings kind of like gives you a mood. It's like in writing, they said like, like who you are depends upon a room. And I think the same applies to buildings. And I really got into The Sims doing building, and I really started to really enjoy architecture in a way that I hadn't really thought about, because I don't really put too much thought in buildings around me. But after building houses in The Sims, now, fortunately or unfortunately, I look at houses and wonder if I can build them in The Sims. So, I'm like a shutterbug. I just like take pictures of houses around my area and think about if I can recreate them. Actually, I have a couple of builds on the gallery of real life houses that I've recreated in The Sims, from houses around my area. I kind of want to make that into a thing. So instead of just Victorian houses, I'll start trying to build some base game houses based on real life. Because I noticed that people in the gallery actually enjoy IRL houses. So I don't know, to me they look very vanilla, but there's some whimsy and charm trying to create a real life house in The Sims. It's just really hard to do because since The Sims is stuck on a grid system, proportions are all like crazy and weird, because you have to stick to certain sizes of stuff. So it's not an exact replica. So it can look really weird. Let's just put it that way. It can look really, really weird because the sizing is just going to be wrong. But I think it's another kind of a challenge to try and make a house in real life. And right now what you're seeing is I'm doing some landscaping. So that short is fence. Sims can walk over it. They don't respect that fence at all. And I'm using a lot of debug items in order to do the landscaping. So for those who don't know, debug landscaping items are just all of the dress setting for all of the fake houses that you see around your sim. There's like a lot of lots that are fake, and all the plants and all like the little decoration stuff is in the debug catalog. So you can look it up. There's different cheats in order to open it up. and you can just like go through the catalog and you can get some crazy stuff there. Like there's this item that I've been in love with because it just looks so weird. So there is a news van in the Devo catalog. It looks like a major broadcasting news van. And I was like, I really want to use this. I just don't know when or how. And I've only used it a few times when I've done community builds where I've had like the news van parked out of a diner. Because I was like, yeah, news van, they need to eat too. But like I would want to do something really crazy and put a news van in a build. I just don't know what. So let me go back to talking about what I'm building here. So I was so systematic making this house. Like I did basically most of the exterior and then I did the interior, and I'm not always so structured. Sometimes I kind of like jump around. Like I'll go inside, I'll go outside, I'll do this, I'll do that. But here I was very concise. And I was like, yeah, I look like I know what I'm doing. So right now, like I'm working on the backyard and I'm trying to find the perfect tile for the backyard. I had such a hard time trying to find the right tile for this backyard. Because I was like, oh, it's so matchy with the front. And then I was like, it's white and I don't know if I want white. And then I was like, I kind of want concrete, but then I don't want it to look like a sidewalk. So I cut it out, but I did like so many different swatches for the backyard tiles, and yeah, and I didn't even really know how to put this tree here, and I ended up doing this little planner, and I thought, yeah, I guess that's great. I don't know, I just wanted a really like contained backyard, and I deleted that last square just so that all the tiles don't touch each other, because if you hold shift you can color all the tiles at once. You could do that with indoor flooring and for walls inside a room. So if you don't want to color each wall tile, you can just hold shift and it'll just color all the walls. And yeah, generally the last touch I do is the terrain paint, so it's weird watching me do it like in the middle of the build. But I thought this house was really pretty, and it has like this double staircase thing in the front around that gazebo part of the front porch, and I thought that looked really cool. And the thing is, in real life, it's actually on a platform and it sweeps around that gazebo thing in the porch. It's just I can't do that in The Sims because it's stuck on a very boxy grid system, and you can't curve stairs. You can only just move them on right angles. So it like stairs can't even be put on an angle. You have to just keep them on straight angles. Oh, and if a stair is touching a wall, it does this weird glitch where the roof pieces end up being visible inside the house. So I'm just trying to make sure they're all hidden. And I couldn't get that one piece there next to that 8-sided tower, so I just colored the top of the roof black. So visually you just don't see it, because I was like, I am not going to kill myself just trying to fit this one, what is it, it's like a diagonal and it's a triangle roof piece, because that doesn't exist in The Sims. And I maneuvered all of the windows in the right place. And you know, some people wait until they do the floor plan before they put the windows. I'm the opposite. I like putting all the windows on the house, and I will move the windows after I do the floor plan, just because I don't want to go digging around for windows again. I think it's much easier to move a window or delete a window than it is to put all the windows on at the end. just because I feel like that makes more sense. And this house is very white and it's very plain. Like it lacks character because I didn't build this house to play in, so I didn't have a sim in mind to live here. This house is basically my own personal build challenge. Like I just wanted to try and recreate this Victorian house, this Queen Anne house in The Sims, and I just made it a very basic looking house. That's why it's mainly white on the inside. If you want this house, you can personalize it any way you want. You can add color and put all the other pack items you want in the house. But I do my best to at least stick a skill building room in the house. For a while now, I've been making houses with garages and turning the garage into a skill building room. And, you know, keeping the house very showcasey. Because the Sims they never eat together unless it's Winterfest, if you have seasons. So most of the time your Sims are not going to all dine together. The dining table is it's just window dressing. It's most of the time I think dining tables are window dressing even in real life. I mean, I feel like most people spend most of their time in the living room. But I was able to squeeze this make this room here into a skill building room with the piano. I always feel great when I can stick a piano in a house because I'm like, yes, yeah, you have made it. You have a piano in your house. And it looks like I'm flying because I've cut out all of my footage of me scrolling through the catalog. And it's just bam, 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 one after the other because you're not seeing all the time I'm spending just scrolling because the catalog is a little like all over the place. So I spent a lot of time just scrolling looking for items, but because I've been doing a lot of these base game houses, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what the items I want are in the catalog. So, you know, like I made this house, like I said, basically for show as a base game house. Sometimes I'll use the houses for a sim who isn't part of my main household, like a boyfriend or a cousin or like an extra sibling. I might give them one of the houses that I build. And I'm using all of these prints of space. And if you, because I use like the unlock code in the game, so I can have all of the items in the game. And those are prints you can get from using the large telescope. At one point, I thought about using the prints as a way for my sim to earn money, but you actually don't really get that much for the prints. But they're very nice, and they're a lot better than some of the other prints of paintings in the game. The base game basically just has modern paintings, or it has like pastoral, farmy looking older paintings. And I would really like it if they made like their own version of classic paintings. Like if they did like mock-ups of classic paintings, I think that would be so good. And I use the same paintings for pictures for kids' rooms. So I use these same like animal ones all the time. And this house, I think it'd be great for like a multi-generation household. So I even added a pool in the back of this house, which isn't something I do for all my houses, but I was like, yeah, I got the space to do it. And I put this debug planters out there, and I'm putting out these little like outdoor lights. So I think I've got a lot of these like little lights around. They're like the best ones. For my own personal houses, I use a lot of CC, so I don't actually post my own houses. But this is the end of my video. Thank you for watching. Bye.